Buenos dias. Welcome back to the Bamboo Season Podcast. I am your host, sober wellness coach Dorian Warmsley. And today's podcast is sponsored by Dorian Warmsley Wellness, a wellness coaching program helping you to build a strong body and a clear mind. Before I introduce today's guest, just a quick reminder, Sunday, October 27th, Health is Wealth Pink Party 2024. We'll be doing a 1 mile walk with a 5K option for those of you who want to challenge yourself. The goal here is to raise $7,000 for the Las Vegas Breast Cancer Warriors. We got Sadie, the Poetry Princess, opening up the event with an amazing custom poem she's writing for the Breast Cancer Warriors. Sunday, October 27th at 12 p.m. $25 minimum donation to join. Vendors, fun, community support. Link in the description to donate or sign up. Now, today's guest is a returning guest, a very interesting individual, I'll say. She has her own podcast, the Coach Lorraine Lindsey podcast. She's a real estate mogul and also an amazing coach. I introduce to you, Lorraine Lindsey.
What's up? What an introduction that was. I mean, good Lord.
Got to spice it up.
Yeah.
Let them know, who's coming. They've seen you before, and
Am I your first reoccurring guest?
you are.
Yeah.
you made it
I think
twice.
I set it off. I was your first guest.
You were.
And now I'm your first reoccurring.
Yes.
I like it.
I like you put the two and two together and got four. You're real good at that.
Yeah.
Very proud of you. So for today's episode, let's have a few questions for you, just hearing your perspective as a coach, as a woman, as somebody with experience of life, and we can just let it flow from there. And,
Okay.
you have questions for me, feel free to ask. So you recently did a Zoom workshop about imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something a lot of people deal with, especially when you're going to business for yourself or you're stepping into new things you're unsure of. For you, when did imposter syndrome strike you when you first got into your whatever career? Or did it happen with all of them?
All of them. All of them, actually. Now that I don't think anyone's ever asked me that. So I'll give you some examples of me sabotaging great opportunities for my life because of imposter syndrome. And I'm going to go way back before that was even a buzzword, because it's such a buzzword right now, right? It's something that has been adopted since 1978, I believe was the year that these two doctors had coined the phrase, if you will. But it's just become a buzzword as of late. So I'll give you some texture. Years ago, when I was late teens, right? My sister and I had a singing group. We were singing, and I thought that we were going to be the Destiny's Child back then, right? It was before Destiny's Child was Destiny's Child. But there was girl groups were really popular, and it was a thing.
Hold on, who was like a popular group at that time?
Like SWV was super popular.
702.
En Vogue was definitely the staple. They had definitely were on the map, and a sample of me singing?
Yeah.
Maybe later. Remind me later. This is why I have a raspy voice, because I was a singer for a long time. All right, so at that time in my life, I was a young mom. I had a kid at 17, and so I had about a 2-year-old at the time. But I really felt like I was supposed to be on a stage performing, and when you're young, you have those kind of dreams. What happened is I ended up meeting somebody. It was a fluke set of circumstances, and I won't be long-winded, but ultimately that person ended up becoming my sister and I's manager. So we signed a contract, the whole thing. But he was legitimately booking us auditions, right? As a matter of fact, I auditioned at Mike Tyson's house here in Las Vegas.
Interesting.
Because he had a record label at that time.
It was like the 90s?
This was, in the late 90s. It was late 90s. Late 90s, early 2000. And so during that time, so here we were auditioning. We flew out to LA. We were performing. I remember we did this performance at this club at the time called Atlas. And these A&R guys were coming in from big name record labels, what have you. We ended up getting offers for record deals. And it was my sister and I at the time. And so they were kind of auditioning a third girl in our group to kind of solidify the group, because it was like this thing with like 3 girls kind of thing. I remember the first time I got a first offer, I was so afraid that my vocal ability and my talent wasn't as good as I thought that it was, that I literally turned the deal down. And my manager was up in arms. He was like, "What are you doing? This is like an opportunity of a lifetime, blah, 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 blah." And I had all my excuses. Well, I'm a mom and, they're wanting this and I don't trust this and this and that. I was just being a hothead. But the reality was there was a part of me that didn't believe that I was as good of a singer as they thought that I was. And there was this feeling, this crippling feeling, like, what if this record company, because the contract has got like, they're going to pay you X amount of dollars, but out of that money, you're almost in debt to them.
Yeah.
So you have to pay that back through record sales and so on. And I thought they're going to invest all this money and I'm going to get up and I'm going to flop. And so I backed out, like crazy backed out. So that was first time imposter syndrome. Totally sabotaged that opportunity. Where my life would have been, who knows? Maybe it would never have turned into anything. But we had 3 record labels give us offers, and I turned down every single one of them. And I had a different excuse for everyone. Fast forward.
You paved the way for Beyonce.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Apparently. Man. But fast forward in a totally different career. I was going to school to be a paramedic, and I wanted to be a firefighter. And I would always get into the thing. I was never afraid of jump starting something. And so I remembered being in a Firefighters Explorers program. It was like a cadet program for firefighters. And there was all these guys and maybe 5 girls. Of everybody who made the squad, I think there was 300 people who auditioned for it, or tried out for it, I should say. There was only going to be 60 people who could make it in. Of the 60 that made it, I was one, and I was the only female. Now, getting into that and training to be this firefighter cadet or what have you, I then went to school to be a paramedic because I knew you needed to be one. But there were different levels of the education. So there was EMT basic at the time, EMT intermediate, and EMT-P, which is paramedic. I went to go for the EMT intermediate. I was super into, look, when I tell you medicine was my wheelhouse, I knew what I was doing. And then I started working for a local ambulance company. I would go out there and do the job and partner up with the EMTP, so their level of care was a little bit higher than mine. Although I knew I had the skill set to be the next level, the highest level of care, I wouldn't do the job. I bailed out of the opportunity to go to school and make more money. Because again, I had this chip on my shoulder, this feeling like I'm not enough to do it. I'm not enough to be on that level, even though I was essentially providing the same care, with the exception of certain types of intubation and drugs. Anyway, fast forward, get into this big career, right, in the casino business, and it was a fluke thing. At least so I thought. See, I always thought that every opportunity I got was a fluke. I never looked at it like it was a deserving position that I had worked hard. I always felt like there was these unique circumstances, which is a big sign of imposter syndrome, that was giving me these opportunities. I never saw my value and my worth, why people were giving me these opportunities. So I was an executive assistant at the time, and I had been given an opportunity to become an executive casino host, and the salary was far more substantial than what I was being paid as an assistant. When the opportunity came to me, I initially turned it down. And again, I did not feel like I was worthy or capable of the job. But the only reason why I ended up taking that opportunity was because my son, I was taking care of somebody in my home. My son's grandfather was ill at the time with cancer, and I was taking care of him, and I needed the money. So I took the job because I needed the money, not because I thought it was capable. And that was when I kind of started recognizing this imposter syndrome thing, because here it was that I took the job this time. I took the opportunity this time, and I freaking killed it. I superseded to the point where I was getting promotion upon promotion. I was making more and more money. So then I started saying, my goodness, how many of these other times in my life that I've passed up opportunity, when if I were afraid enough, or if the situation called for it enough, if I would have actually done the job, where would my life have been? And so fast forward, when I went into coaching, I started facing the same crippling effect. But this time I had a little bit more awareness with it. And I knew that even though I had this fear that I wasn't enough to do the job, I forced myself to do it anyway to see what would happen. And every time I did that, something great happened on the other side of it. I know it was a very long-winded
Yeah,
answer.
it always is. And it's funny.
But it's true though.
It's funny because
so
the
many
beginning was
people
like,
do
well, look,
this.
it's not gonna be one. It's not gonna be one long-winded. It's okay. I'm not gonna say hey to say. It could have been like, hey, I was EMT, this, that. It's okay. Give full detail. It's all right.
Yes, because
Shit
people
happens.
go through this. People experience this.
Of
People
course.
literally miss out on so much opportunity because they're afraid of their own worth.
Yeah, I believe it. I mean, I know for me, I first experienced. Shit. When did I first experience it? When I went to business for myself. When I decided I left both gyms, safe jobs, and I started working for myself. And it's crazy because I went from working in a gym that was only like 4 or 5 trainers to a gym that had like 30, 35 trainers, which is where I work now. And I was like, always worried, like, damn, my clients are going to see these other trainers here. They're going to think they're better, or they're going to think they know more. And I was just like, what the fuck? And I don't know what I was researching something on YouTube, and it came up, imposter syndrome. And I was reading into it. I'm like, damn, that's what it is. But it honestly didn't cripple me that much because I started to think I'm just a unicorn in this world sometimes.
Whatever.
Because my mindset switched instantly. It was like, once I heard that, I don't like being labeled, right?
Okay.
So I'm gonna do everything I can to make sure you can't stick that label to me or put it on myself.
But you were giving the label to yourself.
Yeah, because it seemed like it made sense. So I was like, you know what? No, I'm not gonna accept or think that's what I have. I'm gonna figure out how to get around it. And I switched my mindset and I started to realize, okay, I don't care how many trainers are in this gym, they're not me. Plain and simple. And I had to think back to when I worked at a gym called Orange Theory. That was a group fitness gym to where people signed up. Either they had to because you're the only coach available, or they liked you. And the reason, and I thought about it, I was like, the reason why people come to my class is because of me.
But what was the compelling reason why you had to assess that and make a different choice? Because what I have learned is that when the imposter syndrome doesn't go away, but what compels you to get past it is what will make you dance with it. So what was it for you then that was compelling enough that you're like, no, I got to see this differently at that time?
I think a lot of it always goes back to just my life experiences.
Okay. But more specifically?
Everything. People aren't me.
I get that, but
What do you mean?
What I mean is that here you were on your own, doing business on your own. What was it like? Okay, I'm afraid that these people might be better than me, and they could have been, right? They might have been more seasoned, but I got to do this anyway. What was the reason why you had to do it anyway?
Oh, because it was my livelihood. I had no other option. Like the only option was to go donate plasma and blood,
And that right there, and that's what I was looking for. Because in times of my life when I let imposter syndrome take over and and as a result sabotage maybe some great opportunities in my life, I didn't have a compelling enough why. When I took the leap of faith in the casino and took the job, my compelling why was greater than my fear. You know what I mean? I had a huge reason why I needed that money. And so as afraid as I was and how incapable I felt that I was of doing that job, it didn't matter. I'm like, sink or swim. I got to do this. And so I think that was the whole point. That's why I wanted to ask you that. Oh, yeah. Because it's not
Bigger
like
why.
In a perfect world, be like, look, I'm going to just do this. But that's not really how it works.
I mean, a good amount of things have happened in my life in the past few years. I kind of just like the challenge of it, of the not knowing. Like, all right, we're going to see if it works. Because what's the worst case scenario? I've been homeless before. I've had to do a lot of things that growing up less fortunate to where that's the worst case scenario. All right, that's not that bad. I've been there. And I even laying on the hospital bed after falling out a 4-story window. That was probably the worst experience of my life outside of, probably that and going to jail. So it's like, I really don't have that much fear anymore. But go ahead, what were you going to say?
No, because I want to challenge you on that because I don't think that's true.
What, Lorraine? Go ahead.
Well, I don't think that's true.
That's fine. You're entitled to your opinion, but go ahead.
Well, I mean, you might be in denial of your fear, but you absolutely have fear. We don't get to live and be human and have
I'm not
experience.
I'm not saying I'm fearless. I'm not going to go and just rock climb raw dogging it with my hands.
Rock climb raw dog. Does that mean naked rock climb?
No, it means with no strings, no nothing, just chalk and hands. Bear.
Raw dog has a different meaning to me than it has to you.
Hey, this is a child-friendly podcast.
Is it? Okay, sorry. I digress.
I'm gonna send this clip to your son. But no, yeah, there's some fears with certain things, but it lasts a split second, man. I kind of get over it.
So I'm going to challenge you.
Go ahead.
Can I? Is it okay?
I'll allow it.
You will allow it. Okay, thank you. I'm going to challenge you with that because I know, because you and I have spoken quite a bit. I've coached you and all that stuff. So I happen to know what your wants, needs, and desires are for the most part, right? I love that you are aimless in the things that you want to do. You are incredibly assertive in things that you want to do. But I do also recognize that some of your fear holds you back from progressing much faster than you could. Mm. There is some stall that you have. There's some procrastination in certain things. Oh, yeah. But that's all fear-based is what I'm saying. And when we have a root in something, like, for example, you already have a business in which you monetize, and so your livelihood is not at stake. So the things that are really your call in your life, there's not a compelling why for you yet. Mm-hmm. There's whys. Absolutely, you have a reason why you're doing it. But I don't know if it's compelling you enough that you're risking as much as you could be risking. So I think you play a little safe.
You're right.
Okay.
It's crazy you say this because I had a conversation with somebody a few days ago. A friend of mine is thinking about, jumping into the fitness thing and kind of, getting their fitness career going. But they have a regular job also. They make good money. Mm-hmm. And the other day I had said to her, like, oh, because she was stuck between why she won't do what's required, feeling like stuck. And I told her the same thing. I'm like, well, because you're treating it like a hobby. You have a job, security. So to jump into the fitness world, it's kind of like, okay, I could do it when I want. Mm-hmm. But when it's like, damn, I got to pay rent.
Right.
Or whatever, it's like you'll do everything you can to make sure it works.
Right. And also,
so I guess you're right. Yeah.
No, it's the truth. It's the truth. We will treat a lot of the things that we're called to do in our lives as hobbies for a long time. And mostly because we don't really feel like we're good enough or that we are enough. Like, who am I to do this? Who am I to teach this? Who am I to help people? But yet you know that you have something to do. But again, when you, especially for those that are like, I'll use coaching as an example. And this was a big issue that I had with imposter syndrome in my coaching, circling back to that, was the forever expert. I was, for a long time when I started coaching, and I still do it to this day, I'm the type of coach that I feel very responsible for the position. And I feel like that coaches out there are amateur therapists, and that's how they're behaving, and it's inappropriate. And it's like, if you're going to be coaching someone, you can't act like a therapist. And so with me, when I started doing coaching, I was like, I need to learn as much as I can before I actually sit and talk to a person. And the reason why I felt like that is because I needed to be able to really differentiate whether or not coaching is appropriate for them or if they actually need therapeutic care. And I was so worried about making that mistake that I wanted to become the forever expert. I just learned and learned and learned and learned and didn't move for a long time, And I see that a lot with people who are coaches that are on the responsible side of coaching. But that's also part of imposter syndrome.
Yeah, those are called information hoarders.
Is that what you call them?
Yep.
I call it a fire on ice.
I guess so. But information hoarder, you're just hoarding information because, I think even myself included, at one point I got to that too. It's where I was just trying to learn so much about training and so much about this. But then, I don't know, man. My mind, I look and think I'm a genius sometimes. I don't know. I put things together. Some will say, I don't know. But millions and millions. But what was I going to say? You threw me off.
You did that to yourself. I'm just sitting here being a spectator of your Dorian show and his geniusness.
Hey,
I don't even know if that's a word.
I've been learning to give myself credit for certain things where I would shy away from. But when I start thinking about my life in totality, sometimes I'm like, wow, I forgot I did that, or I had to go through this and get myself through that. What were we talking about just now?
We're talking about imposter syndrome and you're a genius.
The information hoarder. Hold on. Information hoarder. And the information.
Well, you said information hoarder, and I said I call it fire on ice.
Oh, what I learned was, and as you might know as well, I'm very about the action. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why I really learned, because I could have learned as much training skills and all that. Mm-hmm. But that even when you get certified as a trainer, they don't teach you certain things that you have to learn
right
on the go. In that book, it don't tell you how to deal with a woman on her cycle at this point, or this, or a girl coming in after a breakup, or a girl coming in after
the emotional side of things.
anything, to where you have to learn how to, I mean, in real time, I've learned now for 5 years, but learning how to communicate when that client comes in and they have just an emotional, they're all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
The point is the experience helps with everything.
Yeah, it does. And like going back to what you're saying about being actionable, it honestly, everyone has to start someplace, right? You're going to be a rookie until you're not a rookie. And, or you're going to be on the floor in a room when there's people that are like the ceiling. And then when you hit that ceiling, you get to the next room where you're the floor all over again. And I think if we can embrace that and stay in tune with growing, the action's what's going to tell you where you need to pivot and what you need to grow in, you know. It also teaches you what you need to delegate to other people. And in the beginning, again, and for me, when I first started my whole coaching thing, I wanted to do it all. Part of the reason why I was trying to do it all was because I didn't want to be discovered as an imposter. So if I started delegating and admitting that I didn't know tech, or I didn't know how to do the social media thing, or I didn't know how to do this, it was almost like admitting that I didn't know what I was doing. And again, that was the imposter syndrome thing, you know? And also too, I used those things that I needed to do as really worthy distractions as to why I wasn't getting stuff done. And so again, those are like little things that I've realized when, about self even, and when you pivot. So no matter how successful or how well I've managed to do a thing or how much it looks like on the outside, because people will look at some of the stuff that I'm doing and they will think that I have it all together. And I will never pretend that I do. I will never get up on a stage and be like, I got it all together and this is how you do it. I will never proclaim that. You know, I know what I know, but I also know that there's things that I don't know. And I think that the more I've been more honest with myself and transparent, even to my audience, the more it's liberating and I'm not as afraid of looking like an imposter, because I know that I'm not. I'm not looking to be the person that I'm not yet. And I'm okay with that.
A good quote I heard of somebody, a quote I heard recently, I'll be making shit up. I heard this quote, I can't remember when, but in reference.
Apparently it was recently.
And you already know, with black folks, the other day can mean a lot of things. It could mean yesterday.
What did you say?
With black folks, when we say the other day or in a minute, like I ain't seen Lorraine in a minute. That could have been yesterday. That could have been a year ago.
It could have literally been a minute.
Yeah. But anyways, the quote was in reference to taking action, not just being there waiting. It's easier to steer a car in motion than it is to steer a car stuck in park.
That was deep. You like paused too, like if this was FaceTime.
I wanted it to hit.
I thought that
I wanted you to think about
screen had froze because you literally froze.
I wanted you to think about it.
Do you think that was real deep, what you just said?
Yeah. Like what? Think about that. Go push the car in neutral. You can steer that bad boy wherever. Keep that car in park. Where is it going?
No, I'm just kidding. I'm teasing you.
You know what I mean?
But it was much deeper in your head than it was out loud.
I be dropping gems. I had a client.
It's because you're a genius.
I know. I have a client that I train. I've known him for years. So we get along well.
So you're just going to drop nuggets and move on?
I'm going to tell you where the nuggets come from.
Okay, because you parked that car.
I did. I'm moving on to the next.
Okay, I'm trying to put it in neutral and get you to move it.
No. So this client in particular, for whatever reason, when she comes in with her issues, I like to come with solutions.
Oh, Lord.
You feel me?
Are they unsolicited?
No.
Probably. But go ahead.
They're talking their problems.
Are they asking you for a solution?
No.
Okay, so it's unsolicited. But continue.
I don't say it's unsolicited, but it's needed.
It might be
in
needed,
my opinion,
but it's not asked for.
In my opinion, it's
somebody
needed. So
can have a dirty rug, okay?
And you got to tell them.
And the vacuum cleaner guy comes and knocks on their door when they have a sign that says no solicitation. I understand that they need their floors vacuumed.
Don't matter. You still got to
but
let
they
them
don't
know.
want that person
Because they
knocking
don't
on
want
their
to face
door.
the truth. That's why. That's why people don't want it.
I mean, listen, you know me. I get myself in trouble for my unsolicited advice. But go ahead, back to your client.
So we would talk whatever during the sessions, and ever so often, it just comes to me. Like I said, I'm a genius. It just comes to me.
What just comes to you?
A word. A word.
Is it only one word?
No, like a word as in a message.
Okay.
And it goes to it's a solution to that problem.
You're a conduit.
A prophet,
Probably
if you will.
from God.
A prophet. So anyways, and one day I'm talking to her. She says something, and I come with some fire. I know it is.
Okay.
I'm like, oh yeah, hold on one second. Let me write that down. And I write it down so I can post it on Instagram later. It's a word. It's a good quote.
Very prophetic of you.
Yeah. But then one day I did it, and she was like, nah, that didn't hit like you think it did. I was like, what? I didn't expect her to say that. But I was like, you know what? I appreciate you for being honest. I'm still going to post it. I don't care. 1 like, 2 likes, 100. And then the next week I was on my podcast and I dropped another word about being a bison. And she hit me up and she was like, oh yeah, you came back with some fire this time.
My Lord, is this it should just be a one-man band right now. Should I even be here? I feel like you're having a moment with self.
The eye candy. So so serious note, one thing I want to ask you is something I've dealt with over the past 2.5 years since I work for myself is how I put it? Have you ever felt as though when people gave you praise or proud of you or, you know, this and that, and you felt like you couldn't really embrace it or believe it?
Yes. 100%.
Explain. Short-winded.
That's also short-winded. Well, that's not fair.
I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
That's also part of imposter syndrome, actually.
Okay.
An inability to accept compliments. And again, this all boils down to whether or not you feel that you are enough. Everybody has one of 3 issues.
What are they?
Either you don't feel like you're enough, you don't feel like you belong, or you feel alone. Everything else that's happening in your life is a symptom to one of those 3 problems, right? So when I have or you have an inability to accept and receive compliments without either saying something immediately back or just being able to say thank you, that usually stems from not feeling like you're enough. And again, this is another big, big sign of you having imposter syndrome. And imposter syndrome doesn't only specifically pertain to people when they're wanting to start a business or do a thing. It happens in relationships where let's say I had experiences in my life that taught me that I was not a sufficient person. I was ridiculed and beat down and broken down as a child. Never really ever praised or anything like that. And then I got into relationships where they were void fillers, and then they ended up breaking me down the same way because it was familiar pathways, right? And then all of a sudden I meet somebody, and let's say I've done some work, some heavy lifting on self, and now I'm actually receptive to meeting somebody who really is going to treat me well. Well, all of a sudden they come into the picture and they're telling me I'm beautiful. Well, my mom or my dad or my grandpa or whoever it was in the past told me how ugly I was. Or that guy always told me I was fat or I was this or I was that. And he's telling me that. I'm going to have a very difficult time receiving that and being receptive to that because there's a part of me that doesn't believe it. And so I feel like an imposter. Like I don't deserve a person who will treat me like this. Even though it's exactly what I want and need and that I deserve for my life, I will somehow tell myself I don't. And so when we're not receptive to compliments, that's a time for you to really dig deep and say, well, why?
Yeah, I've been trying to figure it out.
So are you having a hard time receiving
I have
compliments?
been forever.
Okay, give me an example of a compliment that you got.
Anytime.
Give me one recently that you can think of. And let's do you want to kind of dig deep on that a little bit?
I don't know. So it's been, especially when I started going sober and sharing the journey and all that, there's people who knew me back then and then they see me now. DMs, texts, anything. Except for I don't know if that's considered a compliment, but just always like, hey, proud of you for that, or man, I've seen this, and it's almost like I don't believe it.
Right.
And I don't know, and I think that's why sometimes
you don't believe. When you say you don't believe it, do you not believe what they're telling you, or you don't believe it for yourself?
Or maybe a mixture of both. At the same time, I don't lack any kind of confidence in anything I do, or I don't feel like.
Well, nobody lacks confidence.
What? Shit. All right.
You know why I say that?
What? Why?
Well, because we are confident in something. It's just that what we're confident in may
not be self.
Right. So, for example, I don't like someone who believes that they lack things. They're confident in that belief. Someone who doesn't think that they're enough, they're confident when they believe that. So confidence is a natural source that we have. But we could be confident in what we're lacking and missing and losing in life, or we could be confident in things that are great. But regardless, we have confidence in something.
I don't know. That was a lot.
Well, we don't.
I just know I've met people to where you never met somebody and you're like, wow, they really don't have that much confidence. And then you meet somebody and you're like, wow, that girl is real confident.
Yeah,
That's what I'm referring
context.
to.
Yeah, in that context, yes.
Well, anyways, back to what I was saying is, I've have struggled and have issues with, I don't say issues, but I guess being as proud as of myself that others will say to me.
Well, here's what I'm
hearing. And it comes
hearing.
from genuine people. Like you will say it sometimes.
Yeah.
You've known me for almost 2 years now. You've been around for a lot of the stuff I've done, I would say growth-wise, and other friends, like my friend Tia, who you've met. She's known me for years, so she's seen the growth. But I don't know, something in me, I'm like, nah.
Well, there's confidence.
And that's why I always feel like I got to do more. I got to do more events. I got to do more of this. I got to do fucking podcast. I got to do more, and still I don't feel it.
Well, because first of all, there's an eternal conflict going on, right? That contradicts itself. So one of the things I heard you say was, I'm not a person who lacks confidence. So your frontal cortex, your conscious mind doesn't believe that it's lacking confidence. So you tell yourself that, but then there's a subconscious belief that is deeper rooted that says, that's a lie. We definitely don't have confidence in ourselves. And so when you're battling with that, then you got to dig deep, because your subconscious comes from old narratives and old rooting and limiting beliefs that are very seemingly buried beneath you. And so you telling yourself you're not confident, you're trying to convince yourself of that, but you got to get subconscious to catch up to that, which means you got to dig that up where that came from. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess.
So what do you think that is for you?
Couldn't tell you.
You couldn't tell me because you don't want to, or you don't want to go there? We don't have to go there right now.
We can go there, but I just don't really know. I've thought about it a lot of times. Like when I'm home by myself and I'm just laying there in bed and I just think about it.
Well, let's circle.
Go ahead. We're going to circle back to what?
Well, we can circle back to the sobriety thing. And who you believed that you were at the time that you were drinking versus the person that was getting sober versus the person who is sober versus this person who is sober now this much time versus the person who now is taking on a mission because of that sobriety. There's a lot of different people inside of you. There's a different version of who you are in your journey. Now, what I would be interested in, if we were doing a session, you and I, is your identity construct to each one of them. Because there might be a unique thread amongst them all that keeps this belief system going. Now, I know what you've shared with me. You've shared it on my podcast of even having guilt in surviving, survivor's guilt, because of people that were close to you that passed that had more meaning according to you to live. And I don't know if that's even something that is resolved inside of you. And so if you were to revisit the identity constructs of Dorian at different stages in his life, who would each one of those men be to you? And how much of those men have you actually forgiven?
I would say to the person, the me who was still drinking and whatever, I never thought of myself.
Okay.
Like I never thought like, who am I or anything. I was kind of just living life. That's it. But also I always felt a sense of guilt because of, I guess, the survivor's guilt and the things, to where I survived, my friend didn't. At that point in life, I wasn't doing nothing but drugs and whatever. He had kids, he had a job. So I always felt like I had told myself, okay, I got to make sure I make changes and almost don't take life for granted, because that could have been me, and almost live for him in a sense. But then I just kept drinking and doing whatever. So it was like almost cognitive dissonance, if you will.
Yeah.
Of me battling, like, I need to do more with my life. But yet I was still drinking and doing all that stuff. So I was stuck in that cycle of shame and guilt for years. And I didn't even think about it.
But what have you done to heal that? Or has it just been suppressed?
The survivor's guilt?
The shame, the guilt. Have you
survivor's
ever
guilt
really,
is still there.
Okay.
Like to this day, it's still there.
So my other question then for you, so hold that for a second. So my other question for you then is, when people compliment you on your sobriety and they're congratulating you and they're proud of you, do you feel like you believe them, or do you still think that there's a part of them that still sees you as the old person? Because if people are coming to you and saying, you know, I'm so proud of you or this and that, do you think there's a little bit of judgment that comes with that? Or like, what do you think when people are complimenting you?
As far as the sobriety stuff?
Yeah, because I guess go ahead.
When they do, I believe it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, especially when it comes from, like I said, people who I've known for a while and they kind of seen and knew who I was. But for me, what really makes me feel, I guess the word I could use is good, is when people say like, they feel like inspired, or they tell me, hey, I decided I want to stop drinking too, or hey, I think I want to stop or cut back, or when it inspires people in that way, that's kind of where I feel more fulfilled.
Okay, but then when they're complimenting you.
Yeah.
It's hard, I would, because there's a lot of things that are coming to my mind with this, and it has a lot to do with, like I said, the different identity constructs that you have, and it also really depends on who's complimenting you.
Yeah.
And so this is why I said, give me a specific example, because it's too vague. Because if I were to really dissect this down and really get you to kind of get clarity in that, it would really be, is it from the past or from the present? And what does this tie into what you really believe about yourself in your sobriety? Because there might be some things that you may not have, like, you know, you're living the sober life, but there might be a part of the subconscious mind that doesn't fully believe it entirely yet.
Well, I just don't know if necessarily with the sobriety journey and stuff, I just sometimes think and question, like, is that what I'm supposed to be doing? You know what I mean? Like, am I supposed to be the sobriety advocate, right? Or can I just be a person who's sober and just living their life as a fitness coach, speaker, and, you know, that kind of stuff. So sometimes you
can do one or you could do the other, but you can't do both. So that's the damaging thing, is that you don't have a decision made clearly. And I'm not talking about a choice. I'm talking about a decision.
Yeah. So I think for whatever reason, I feel compelled to do the sobriety advocacy thing because I remember and understand how it was. And it does feel good being able to help people when they do come to me with their struggles within that field of stuff, sobriety, especially with the coaching program and stuff. It's like, I get some fulfillment out of that also.
Yeah. But I'm going to switch gears a little bit, and I'll tell you, I'm going to reflect on me and a difficult time that I went through as a coach, where I questioned my coaching and specifically what I was coaching people for. And I actually recently talked to a coach, and she's struggling too as a coach. When I got into coaching, it was right after a really painful divorce, after years of being in a very abusive, toxic relationship. And with that pain, I sought my healing. And I did a lot of heavy lifting to get healed from that, to move forward from that, to be resilient in that. And at that time, I felt so alive, and I felt like I felt good finally after a long time. And I was so excited about feeling that way that I wanted anybody who ever felt the way that I felt to experience the same joy, to be able to overcome. And so that was my mission and my compelling why am I coaching at that time. But after years of talking about those things, I was also still continually doing work because I wasn't all the way healed when I started coaching. And so actually teaching people and talking to people helped me in my healing journey. That was part of the imposter syndrome that I had to get on. Like, I don't have to have this down pat. But by me sharing with people and talking to people, it's going to encourage me to stay the course myself. The problem is, years later, I had done my work. That I could take the hat off and be like, that relationship, the pain from it, the dynamics, what I understand, it doesn't serve me anyway. So much, in fact, that talking to people about their trauma was re-engaging me in my trauma. I say all of that because there's something for you to think about for yourself. Is just because you are somebody who is a survivor, who has overcome sobriety, that might have been something that taught you who you really are at the essence of self. So the essence of you could be a man who wants to really help people, but it doesn't mean that it's always going to be specific to your story. And maybe that's something at some point where you can say, do I really want to do this? And really let me ask myself why. And if I continue to be a sobriety advocate, as much as involved as I am, is it really stunting my growth a little bit because it's re-engaging me with stuff that might make you unsettled a little bit? You know?
I don't know. I will say I don't get any urge or anything like that. Like,
no, I don't mean it that way.
I was making sure because that's
no. I don't mean it at all. Like it gives you urges to be a drinker or anything like that. Because I think you're past that part of your journey. I don't think that at all. But there was a dark side to that. There's energy involved with that, right? Like I'm not gonna go back to my ex-husband or be in a toxic relation like that was. I'm over that. But there's some kind of energy that people that are in that journey that I have to really guard and I have to be very careful that it doesn't come into me without being able to find a way to let it go. Because then I find myself depressed and I don't know why I'm depressed. I find myself with compassion fatigue, all of those things. And so I have to, even now, pivot and figure out, I still want to help people. I still want to do this, but I have to figure out a way to do it in which it's not only serving them, but it's got to fill my cup too.
Yeah, I think I'm excited for this next group of people I have coming up, the next 6 weeks. And because the first group was amazing, good feedback. And so with that, after this group, I think I'll reassess things and kind of see where I can clean the program up, where if it is the right, like you said, decision to keep going towards it. Because like I said earlier, I do get a sense of fulfillment out of it. But I think that's what helping people overall
does for you. Yeah,
like the charity events, the training my clients, like nothing beats that. And but another thing that has been happening since obviously I went sober and stuff is like, I think we talked about before, but feeling like alone, right? I don't necessarily feel lonely, but alone a lot of the times. It's crazy. Like it's just work and then I go home and then I'm just like, I don't know. So yeah, just moments of that. And then part of me is kind of like, I start thinking about, I'm like, well, maybe the being alone is what's needed right now. Maybe being alone is, what I need, to.
Well, instead of justifying it.
And that's what I do. I try to make.
Yeah, and that's cognitive dissonance again.
A client told me today, the same client who I talked about just like a second ago when I would give good words, she told me something today and I forgot what it was. And I always come back with some type of positivity. And she was like, that's toxic positivity. I was like, what? So I Googled it and it's a real thing.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. And I guess sometimes I might have that to where I really try to turn everything into.
Yeah. Because sometimes when we're still healing, we don't realize that we are still healing.
Yeah.
And then we use things more like a drug and we become addicted to those things, even if they're seemingly for the right pathway. You know what I mean? Like for me, for example, when I was hurting and seeking and I was broken and that was my mantra, my narrative for myself. And I've talked about this numerous times, but I was seeking help and validation and all those kind of things. And I thought I was being incredibly proactive, but I was always looking for the confirmation for the pain, right? I was looking for conformity or confirmation in my belief system. And it was a belief system that was so deep rooted that I didn't realize that's what I was doing. So circling back to when you say alone, it's not a matter of you rationalizing it and making it a worthy cause for you, especially if you don't want to be alone. Because if you can make up reasons why it's a good thing, you'll stay alone. Right? So again, this is where I say to you, you say things cognitively, right? Because you're smart and you're a genius and all. And I think that's great about you. I'm complimenting you, but you're not going to take the compliment, clearly, because that's what we're talking about.
Are you gaslighting me?
I am gaslighting you.
Like, what?
I'm totally kidding. But
you about to go viral,
but again,
girl.
here's a pattern that I'm already recognizing with you, right? Is that you will tell yourself something, but you have subconscious beliefs that totally contradict it. Okay? And when we get that eternal conflict inside of us, we will go through life saying, why do I feel this way without understanding? Because I'm telling myself I'm not. But rather than tell yourself you're not alone, acknowledge that you are. I am alone. How do I define that word? What does it mean to me to be alone? And really dig deep as to where that conversation is coming from and why you actually don't like to be alone. Because it doesn't seem like you like being alone.
No, I don't mind it. I enjoy my own company. I really do.
So now here we go again.
I just explained that I feel alone, but I didn't say I didn't like it.
Did you say it in a way that you were enjoying it? Because I missed that.
I mean, I didn't say it with so much excitement, but...
If you have to talk yourself into reasons why alone is not a bad thing.
I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, for me, I enjoy my own space. I enjoy being to myself.
But you're doing it again.
Doing what again?
You're rationalizing.
I'm not rationalizing. I really do. Granted, depending on the situation and space, I enjoy being around other people in different situations.
Okay.
But it's got to be, I guess, fitting or, yeah, I don't know how to explain it.
Right.
I don't mind going to the black networking mixers, every so often. I usually don't like
doing... You just throwing stuff out there right
I'm
now.
not, because usually I don't like doing stuff like that. But then also...
But you had a reason.
So also, I think...
But you had a reason for doing that by attending those things, those functions.
And I was out my comfort zone.
Right. But this is what I'm saying.
Right now... So being alone has to be bad? Is that what you're saying?
No, it doesn't have to be bad at all. Because there's loneliness and then there's being alone. And they're different. Okay. But I'm listening to you, okay? Because that's what I do. As much as I run my mouth, I am listening. I am picking up on everything you're putting down, okay? So when you share what you shared, it was not coming from a happy space when you initially shared it. So much, in fact, that you by your own admission, you use excuses why loneliness is, or by being alone, not loneliness, why being alone is not a bad thing. You literally are rationalizing that concept in your mind instead of just being honest with yourself that it might not be something you want entirely. But you have to dig deep into...
because when I think about it, I don't know what else I would want.
Well, maybe it's companionship.
No, man.
It might not be that. Maybe it's something more fulfilling. Maybe getting clarity on what you're doing. Maybe whatever. Because there's a lot of things you could fill with your time where you wouldn't feel alone, to even recognize that alone was there, but you're not doing that. And so therefore you have a recognition of being alone. And when you first started talking about it, it was not coming from a place that is like, I'm a monk in the forest and I'm zenning out and I love to be alone. That was not your conversation. But now when I pushed you a little bit and I brought up some things that made you uncomfortable, so you shifted.
Allegedly. Maybe. I don't know. Something I have to think about.
Don't think about it too much. Genius one.
But even, so back, I'm at another example of the being not feeling as proud of myself in those things.
Okay.
And it's crazy because I'm saying this now, but as I think about yesterday, what happened with me yesterday, some people I hung out with, it was very, I'm just one thing at a time.
Okay.
So even when I got my car, right? A few months ago. So for 10 years, I didn't have a license, never had a car.
You're welcome.
10 years.
You're welcome.
Anyways, y'all, she bought me a car. So, and I finally got it, and other friends I know, whatever, like so hype and oh my God. And I wasn't even, it didn't faze me. I don't know why. I guess, I enjoyed riding my little e-bike to work. My people might sound crazy, but to me, there's like some beauty in the struggle of things, man. I think those kind of things kept me humbled. Those things kind of kept me wanting to keep going.
So you're not humble anymore?
No, I still am, but
okay.
It's just, there was a sense of like I'm almost challenging myself.
For how long?
Forever.
Why?
What you mean? Why not? I think that's how you build that mental strength.
I don't disagree that there's beauty in struggle, but what makes it beautiful is when you overcome it. So how long do you need to stay in the struggle?
Well, I never saw it as a struggle.
Okay.
I didn't see it as a struggle to have a car. It is what it is. Like, I made it that long.
Okay, but again, you're contradicting yourself.
How?
Because you said there was a beauty. You're saying that you got this car. This is what I heard you say.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I see what you're saying now.
Okay.
Well, anyways, let me circle back. Make sure I'm getting my words correct.
Limited beliefs, man. I pay attention to them.
Okay, Maya. But I don't know. Like when I got the car and stuff, I didn't feel like no different. I was like, cool. Obviously, it's more convenient. It changes a lot of things, especially when I have a private client. I could move and all these things. But I don't know. I wasn't feeling like.
But do you feel like you're deserving?
I didn't feel accomplished. I didn't feel like.
But why? Do you not feel like you deserve that? Because here's a pattern again that I'm seeing with you, right? I have a hard time accepting compliments. I feel alone. And now I'm hearing that you have accomplishments in life that are not worth celebrating. So what does that really tell me about what you believe about yourself?
That I ain't shit?
I think you believe that about yourself.
Damn, that's deep.
Because there's a pattern here. You can tell me everything out loud that you want because language is a barrier to defeat sometimes. Language and using words, right, are sometimes the trap that we put ourselves into. The most powerful thing that two people can do to really read a person, like when I read a human being, like I'm really good at reading people, is not because I have a conversation with them or ask them certain questions. Most of my coaching is nonverbal cue. It is the most powerful thing that we can have in order for us to read and understand people. And we all have that gift. The thing that puts a barrier between that is conversation. Because now I get to tell myself or tell you what I want them to believe. So when I'm listening to you, because I'm really listening to you, I'm hearing what you're not saying more than what you are. Because what you are saying versus what you're not saying, there's a lot of contradiction in that. And until you are honest and be open to that, there shouldn't be a reason why after 10 years, especially having been sober, having lost your license, going through the things that you did and finally saying, I'm going to buckle down because my life will serve me better in this particular town if I have transportation. It's one thing when you want to be limited to the radius of the gym where you live in the gym and I can get on my motorbike and do that. That's great. That's fine. But when you wanted to expand yourself, you had to change your mind about your accessibility to people. Okay. And you did that despite your odds, despite that it was going to cost you a little bit more money because there are certain steps that you had to take because of your past. And you did that. And you tell me why that can't be something to be celebrated for yourself.
Couldn't tell you if I did, I would.
Well, because you don't feel you're worthy of celebrating your wins.
I guess so. I don't know. I just feel like I keep feeling.
Do you think you're deserving of celebrating your wins?
No.
Why?
I feel like it's just a part of life, I guess. Like, who cares?
So does everybody do what you do?
No.
Okay.
Nobody in the world.
Okay, genius one.
I'm just saying.
Are
nobody
you?
In the world is
am
me.
I Pinky and are you the brain?
I'm glad you recognize.
No, but I mean that. See, now what you're doing right now is you're diverting the conversation.
Bro, I'm diverting. You're the one cracking the jokes.
You put me on the show as
you're
a recurring
cracking the
guest.
jokes. You went from serious mode to I'm Pinky and you're the brain, bro.
No,
what?
You're like,
and then you gaslight me?
You love that word. I need you to look that word up. But anyhow, Dorian, I mean this seriously.
No, I'm being serious. We have like 7 minutes.
Okay. See, don't you like that I know pay attention to the time too?
No, but like to what you said,
Why don't you think you're deserving of celebrating?
I don't know.
Your
I feel like there's so much more I need to do.
Okay, that might be true, but for the time being, you know how you get there? By celebrating the wins.
Yeah, I know. But I don't know. I'm just not satisfied with stuff. I feel like there's so much.
You'll never stop being satisfied.
More.
If you don't think you're enough, nothing you will ever do.
Or I think the things I've done or the celebrations you're talking about are like bare minimum stuff. So I'm like, all right, this is what I'm supposed to do. What bigger thing can I do? I think I feel more accomplished when it's not to deal with me.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, got my breast cancer event coming up like last year. We did it and that stuff. That was where I felt like, okay, fuck yeah, we did that. Like,
yeah.
You know, like.
But there's a part of it that's still about you.
True.
Because there's a party that says, F yeah, I did that.
I don't want to say I.
There is. There's a component to that, and that's okay.
So, another part of the story.
Mm-hmm. We're just going to switch it up?
No, I'm going to try to tell you more information to tie it into the stuff we just talked about.
Okay.
Because even all those things I mentioned, how I felt not enough and all those, yesterday I had these two ladies come train who I used to train. You might have seen them a while ago before, but their kids played football for Gorman, and me and one of them have the same birthday. I've known her for years. They're sweet ladies, like they're some football moms. So one of them's in town. Like, hey, we're in town. We haven't seen them in almost a year.
Mm-hmm.
So I see them, and we're working out, catching up, whatever. We go get lunch after, and they had said to me, both of them, or one of them said like, "You'd be proud of me," and I'm like, "What?" And she was just telling me how some of the things I had told her when she was training me over a year ago, she's like now doing on a consistent basis. Yeah, every day I get my protein shake in before I go work out. I'm going this and that. And both of them had said these things, and I was like, damn. I don't know. It was a moment. I guess I was proud of myself a little bit, but hearing in that context, like I never thought. Just hearing that something I had gave them to do or help I had given them a year previous, and I haven't seen them, but that they were doing, and them saying like you'll be proud of me. I was like, damn. I don't know how to explain that. It was just
No, I get it. Now let me ask you a question.
I felt real filled.
Yeah. Now, how much more impactful would you be if you actually believed that when you spoke to people, people moved? If you actually believed
It's
it.
fucking hard, man, because there's people who you tell stuff to and they don't do it.
Doesn't matter.
And I don't know why. That's probably what it is that bugs me.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that's hard to do when you're a coach and you actually care is you get very hyper focused on people's results, right? And we've talked about this before. But if I knew, right? If I knew that what I had to say could change somebody's life because it changed mine, and I believed that I was enough of a person that I could convey that message, I would be relentless in telling the world. As many people as I could get that message to, I would be relentless in that. It would compel me if I believed that value in myself. And I wouldn't measure the results or stop there, you know? And so what happens if we're not careful, when we're doing it more for us than for others, when we make it more about us than others? Because when I'm looking for results, or I'm stopping myself, or I don't want to do it, it's because I'm too worried about self. I'm too worried about, am I doing enough? How do I look? What's that like? And I've gotten caught up in that, especially when I start getting momentum on things. And so I start off with a mission of helping, and then the momentum or the reaction I'm getting from people starts to get to me, good, bad, and indifferent. And then I'd start making it about me again. And so I have to check myself and say, is the thing that I'm really sharing here, is my experience, is it all worth me sharing that with somebody to get differences from people, so people can have differences? And again, I think with you, you're not believing that enough in yourself. That it's like a shock that someone is impacted and moved by you. That shouldn't shock you. That should not shock you. Because your intention in your heart is so powerful. And I know that about you personally. Your intention in your heart is very pure. And I think that you really want to help people. And that's why you go through so much eternal turmoil sometimes. But you gotta believe that about yourself.
I believe that I care about people more than myself.
That could be true. I believe that. That might be true.
No, it is true.
To an extent.
I'm dropping the facts. And I don't know if it's bad or good. You know, sometimes I literally care more about others and their well-being or anything than myself. Sometimes I don't even know if I care about myself. I just feel like I'm so stuck on an autopilot mindset of certain things I do that need to be done, to where certain things don't even come. I don't even think about them. I just do them. You know, it's I don't know. It's weird. A weird space right now.
Well, we need to talk about that more. Obviously, we don't have time to do it here, but
Well,
I'm taking notes, and you and I need to sit down and have conversations about it.
crazy.
Because
My phone number is about to change.
what does that have to do with me?
I don't know how you're gonna reach
My
me.
number's not. So you just let me know your new number, and we'll be fine.
I'll get you with
But if you want to change that number,
I'll get you with my
because
assistant.
like Maya Angelou says, if you want to argue your limitations, you get to keep them. So if you want to change that number because you're afraid of your breakthrough, then go for it.
I'm a bison, baby. I go towards the storm. Remember that.
Yeah, okay.
I go towards it.
Okay.
Aries, the leaders of the world.
Oh, Jesus.
All right. Well, I shared a little bit of what's going on here.
He's like, why is she here again?
No, that's why I wanted you here.
Yeah, well, we could do this more often. We could just we need to have a whole series on this stuff.
Well, what is a piece of information, short-winded, quick,
I know.
straight
I
to
see
it,
the time on the clock.
that you want to give somebody listening, it could refer to this conversation, that will help them transform and grow. Like they're gonna hear this and like, oh, fuck, yeah.
I would say that no matter who you are, big or small, you have the power within you to impact other people's lives. And that no matter what you've been through, no matter what adversity you've been in your life, know that you didn't come out and survive it for nothing. And never feel that your story is not relevant enough for another person.
Well said.
Thank you.
That might have been the shortest winded thing you ever said.
You told me to keep it short.
Hey.
But I mean that, though.
That's good. All right. Thank you again,
You're
Miss
welcome.
Lorraine Lindsey, for hopping on today. Always appreciate your presence.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in, guys. Remember, Sunday, October 27th, breast cancer event. The link will be in the description so you could donate, so you can register. If you're not in Vegas, you can still donate $5, $10. Help us reach our goal. And I'll leave you with a word.
Word. A word or some words?
Do I got a word? I usually got a word to leave y'all with.
Instead of them and ahs?
It's got to come to me naturally. I'm David Ruppin. She is a temptation. I'm just kidding. No word today. She gave us a nugget already.
So funny.
Froze. Yeah.
Give
No
us a
word.
word about transformation.
Transformation.
That's what this show is about.
The show's about transformation
So give
and
us a word.
growth.
Yeah, so give us a word on transformation and growth.
In order to transform yourself, you got to transform your environment. Remove yourself. Put yourself in environments that are going to see your value and take you from a $1 bottle of water at 99-cent store to a $25 bottle of water at the Wynn Casino.
99 cents. $1 at the 99-cent store.
That's how cheap you are right now.
Why isn't the bottle of water 99 cents?
Because you're in the wrong environment. Place yourself in environments that are going to uplift you and appreciate your value. 2 words.
Let's get it.
Let's get it. Peace.